Welcome to Thursday Thoughts, your weekly dose of real, honest conversation on all things personal growth. These are the chats Lucy and I love having every week over on Instagram. They're unfiltered, unedited, and always rooted in practical tools and a dose of inspiration. Let's dive in. Good morning, everyone who's joining. So this morning we were just literally talking about what we were going to talk about. So we think we came up with. I heard something this morning which I just really liked, and I thought we could use this as a base of inspiration this morning. And that was the amount of good things in your life depends on your ability to notice them. And I really love this because it's so true. We often think that life might not be working for us, that things are really difficult, really, really challenging. But actually, perhaps we're just not pausing long enough just to notice all the things which actually are going well, that are good for us. And I think sometimes that's just a good reminder that actually, you know what? We can moan and groan, we can focus on the negative, and it all comes down to that negative energy again. Yeah. If we get stuck in that, we can then perpetuate those feelings of negativity. But if we can pause and we can start to notice all the good things, and even if you are in the shit, and even if it does feel like life is really not happening for you at the moment, there will be something. Even I have this morning, the sun is finally pouring through my window. That alone is, it's about noticing that and enjoying that and going, wow, that we've been in the dark really much for the last couple of months. I've got my sun pouring through my window. That is good. Let's notice that. That is a beautiful thing. So it's, without sounding too cheesy and a bit saccharine, it really is about just noticing those little moments in our lives which can shift the energy, which can then actually which then allows you to start noticing more of those moments. You know, we've talked about glimmers. I think we did a whole episode before on glimmers, which are those moments which are opposite to triggers, which are those little moments which bring you so much joy. And so it's just about noticing more and more of those.
Totally. When you suggested this, it made me think how, I don't know about you, but I have realized about myself that I have to be so intentional about feeling good. And I have to be really intentional about finding the good and finding the joy. And I mean, you and I have spoken about this. And I mean, I don't think both of us, or rather, I don't think either of us have had a particularly wonderful start to 2026. You have a much better reason than I do. I think I've just been feeling in a bit of a funk and I don't really know why. You've obviously injured your knee, so you've got an operation coming up and all of that. So I think I've realized this year particularly this year, that you really do, and I think as humans in general, we have to be intentional. We have to choose it. We have to notice when we're not feeling great and choose to try and shift out of that. And, like you say, notice those moments of good, because they are always there for the taking. It's just noticing them. But again, I think it's making a decision to be intentional about finding them, because the world at the moment seems completely crazy. I feel like I can't even keep up with who the fuck is bombing who. Do you know what I mean? I literally feel like I don't even know what is going on. And I'm sure a lot of people feel really wobbly at the moment about the state of the world. But that is even more reason to make that decision to shift our focus onto things that feel good. Somebody in my membership, because as you know, probably my audience is single women, and somebody in my membership, I think it was a message in the chat the other day saying, basically saying how when you're single, it can feel really hard when all of this stuff's going on because you don't have that person, you don't have a family in the house with you. And I just responded saying, ultimately, it's about all of us, whether you're partnered, whether you have kids or not, we have to take responsibility for how we're feeling. So if we notice that we're going down, and I'm talking to myself here, if we notice that we're going down a rabbit hole of doom and depression, then it is on us. It is our responsibility to really notice that, be aware of it, and then choose to shift onto something that is going to make us feel good. It really always comes back down to that, doesn't it? It's like, and as you say, there are always, no matter what is going on in the world, there is always beauty in the world, and there is always darkness in the world. It just depends what we want to focus on and what we want to bring our attention to. And like you were saying, it's what we choose to notice. So if we want to, particularly at the moment, but I think anytime, we can really notice the bad stuff. And human beings, I think tendency is to go towards the negative. If there's a negative news story, we tend to latch onto that much easier than, we don't even hear about the fucking good news, but you know what I mean? We tend to latch onto the negative stuff and the bad stuff just much more automatically. I think it just comes, because we're sort of wired to, to protect ourselves. So we're wired to be on the lookout for danger. And that's just what we do as human beings, which obviously in many ways we need and is really, really helpful. But I think perhaps we don't need it as much as we inherently feel like we do. So we have to choose to move towards the beauty of life and the positive things that are going on. And like you say, notice, because there are always things that are going on that are wonderful. We just have to seek them out in this world a lot more than we have to seek out the bad shit, because the bad shit is right in front of us 24/7. And one thing I think, what's really, when you think about the world at the moment and all the craziness that's going on, because of our screens and our phones and just the number of fucking portals that we have to news particularly, it's really difficult to get away from that. So even more, we have to choose to notice the good, because otherwise we're just going to get swept away in all of the bad stuff,
Yeah, I mean, there is so much fear at the moment in the
Yeah.
world, and fear is so powerful. It can sweep you up so easily, and then it sweeps up everybody. I mean, and that's what's scary, is that, that there is so much fear. It's terrifying. So I personally choose to literally hear, I might have the radio on and I might hear the headlines, or, it's not like I'm totally trying to be completely stupid to the whole thing. And we talk about this, it's so important to what you consume, as to what you consume.
Yeah.
But I think we've got to try and be intentional about, okay, you let in some of that noise in, but let that not be the only stuff that you're allowing in to your world. Because obviously, if you turn on the radio, turn on the TV, you look in a newspaper, you look on social media, you look on, any, as you say, any form of where
Any
you're
portal
able
of
to, any
information.
portal of information, you're going to get it. But so that is why, can we try, and this is what I try and do, try and counterbalance that with seeking out something which actually makes you feel really good, and something which is joyful and lovely. And it's hard. It is hard in our modern world. This is the thing. This is why we keep going on about it, because it's harder to find the joyful, positive bits, because you've got to work for it. Because as you say, firstly, we were swung to go to the negative for survival, but then also because of this bombardment that we constantly have.
Yeah.
So I constantly am trying to be aware of, right, okay, I can't let too much of that into my world, because being a sensitive soul, I pick it all up, and it really does affect me. It doesn't affect everybody in the same way. Some people have a much harder surface and can bat it off, which is, I'm quite envious of if you're one of those. But I suck it all up, and I can really feel it. So yeah, I have to protect myself from that news. I am very conscious about not getting into conversations where it's it's all doom and gloom. And if there is a conversation, I will kind of subtly try and either get out of that conversation or just bring it round onto something which is actually more positive. Because if we're all stuck in the feelings of of fear, of scary stuff, and then we're having conversations about the fear and the scary stuff, guess what? We're just going down. We talked about these negative emotional spirals. We're going down deeper into those spirals, and we're feeling more scared and more fear. And it's just not good for us. It's not good for our nervous systems. It's just not good for us.
And also,
so, yeah.
I think it's worth pointing out as well that if you think about it, in a way, like when you and I were growing up, right, actually, I can remember the days before Channel 5. So when we only had 4, I remember when Channel 5 came out, and because
Guess
before
what?
that it was
I remember when Channel 4 came out. I'm a little
Yeah,
bit
well,
older.
I think I do too, Polly. So all that to say that when we were growing up, we only had newspapers, a certain number of TV channels. So we were only fed a certain amount of information. It was very, very restrictive. And I think there's something about the amount of information that we have access to these days. I really do. And, I'm sure this is all going to come out in research over the coming years, because this is really the first time in the history of the world where humans have ever had access to this much information, and it is doing something to our brains. We're not designed to take on so much information 24/7. We're just not. In the same way that when we scroll through our Instagram feed, for example, how many videos can you watch in the space of 5 or 10 minutes? Scrolling. I remember hearing some stat. I wish I could remember it, but it was something like the average person scrolls through the length of like a certain number of football pitches a day on social media. So literally, if you think about, as you scroll, it's going up and up and up and up and up. And it's the length of, it's really not helping that I cannot remember how many football pitches, but even if it was just one football pitch, that's quite shocking in itself. But if you think about the amount of information that is just coming at us all the time through news apps, through social media, through conversations, through papers, through all of these different portals, it's not normal for our brain to have to process that much information. So we really, again, it's going back to that sort of responsibility thing. We have to take responsibility. We have to understand that this is not natural. And we have to make that decision to shift our focus elsewhere, because otherwise we're just going to go completely crazy bonkers. Do you know what I mean? So again, it's back to, okay, I'm going to choose to notice the good things that go on in my life today. I'm going to choose to notice the fact that, oh, look, I can walk over to a tap and there is clean, fresh water in my kitchen. Not everybody has that. It's like you just said about the sun. It would be very easy if you're feeling down to just kind of, walk down the road on your way to work and just not really notice that the sun's shining. That's another thing. Notice the sun's shining. It's just the little tiny things that we have to be intentional about noticing, and we have to remember to do that. It's so easy to, you can listen to a conversation like this, or you can listen to a podcast and it can remind you for, half an hour or an hour. But then what we tend to do is we just fall back into our conditioning. We fall back into our subconscious. We fall back into the program. And so it really is a question of keeping it in mind all the time, because if we don't have it at front of mind to notice the things that we want to notice, then we're going to forget to notice them. Yeah. So you've got to have some way of remembering to do that every day. We talk about this all the time, reminders in your phone, blah, blah, blah. I feel like it's painful to say it again, but we do all need that reminder, myself included, because otherwise, we literally forget to notice. We go back into the program. We go back into the matrix, and we're kind of lost to it. So unless we remind ourselves, unless we are very intentional about that, then it's very easy to, we might spend half a day noticing the good, but then by lunchtime we've just forgotten again.
Yeah. So you need to remind ourselves, but I also find, if you're I've been thinking recently, when I'm in a funk, because you're often aware when you're in a funk and you're feeling negative, and so I know when I'm in that mode, and then I can find it quite frustrating. I can't get out of it. You're kind of like going, oh, I'm in this funk and I don't want to be in this funk. I've got to get out of it. So I've been really trying to notice recently is like, what do I do? How do I get out of it? And I think, first of all, it is literally a decision you have to make. It's literally, and it's, I don't want to be in this. I don't want to be in this funk. Because sometimes you can actually almost enjoy feeling a little bit sorry for yourself and wallowing in it. So you have to make a conscious decision like, right, no, I'm not, I'm done with this. I don't want to be here. Which is quite big, I think, in terms of, and you know, that is kind of tough love, but it is a bit like, right, no, come on, you got to get out of it.
I will only ever recommend brands that I know, love, and use myself. And one of those is Ancient and Brave. Honestly, they've become part of my daily habits. The very first thing I do every morning is pour myself a big glass of water with their True Hydration in it. It feels like such a simple ritual, but it really sets me up for the day. And I know I'm properly rehydrating with their blend of electrolytes and minerals, especially before I exercise, which I always do in the morning. Then later on, when I make my coffee, I stir in their True Collagen powder into the coffee. Now, it blends in straight away, no fuss, there's no taste, and collagen is something we naturally lose as we age, but it's so important for our skin, joints, and overall vitality. Now, I'll be honest, Ancient and Brave may cost a little more than some of the tubs you'll spot on supermarket shelves, but the difference is you're getting the highest quality ingredients, sourced with integrity and tested to a higher standard, and absolutely no nasties added. That's why I trust them and why I think they're worth every penny. And because I want you to be able to try them out for yourself, I've got a special offer for you. As a listener of this podcast, you can get 20% off your very first order. All you need to do is click the link in the show notes and pop in the code POLYW20 at checkout. They've got more than just collagen and hydration too. They've got creatine, they've got blends, supplements. So it's a perfect chance to explore their range and make the most of that 20% off.
Yeah.
And then also it's about, as we've also spoken loads about before, it's shifting that energy. It is literally like, do something different, get outside, shake your body, do something different to what you're currently doing, just to mix it up, just to release that negative energy. And then it is, you know, focusing on something good. You, I know, are very, very good at writing gratitudes lists and like future gratitudes. I go in and out. I'm not rigid with this, but I do think I'm pretty good at noticing mostly. I think my awareness is good enough most of the time to appreciate what is around me. Not always. And maybe this is something I do need to go back to, but I do know for so many, writing out 3 things you're grateful for in the morning is a great way to get yourself in the right headspace and sets you up for the rest of the day, because your reticular activating system, which is basically your radar for what you're going to focus on in the day, whether that's the positive or the negative, is basically set up to, right, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for this, this is what I'm focusing on today. As is any sort of morning practice which gives you good feelings, that is going to set you up for the rest of the day as well as you possibly can to start focusing on the things you want to focus on. It gives you an element of control. Yes, we can then start slipping back into, as you call it, the matrix, into autopilot. But the more we can start that day from these places of writing out gratitudes and or doing some sort of practice to be positive is going to really help. Do you do your gratitudes at the beginning of the day or at the end?
Always in the morning. I never do. I mean, actually, one thing I do is when I turn my light out and when I lie down to go to sleep, I will think about something that I'm grateful for.
I do that as well, actually. All right, or something I'm really thankful for of the day, or something positive. I'll think.
Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise, like so many of us, you know, I think the kind of standard can be to lie down and sort of worry about what went wrong, or lie down in bed and worry about what you're worried about, you know, something that you're worried about for the next day. But actually, if you go to sleep thinking about things that you're grateful for, then that is that's what you want to be thinking when you go to sleep, rather than all the shite that you're worrying about as you go to sleep. Because that is, it's about, we have to train our brain. And the great thing is that we absolutely can train our brain. And the reticular activating system being one of those things, I can't speak, the RAS, because we have to train our brain to notice the things that we want it to notice. So if we are focusing on, say, the news, like, we are training our brain to look out for it. So the more we focus on it, the more we're saying to our brain, these are the things, this is what I want you to notice for me. Whereas if you're training if you want to think about, like for me, if I want to think about Jennifer Aniston coming on my podcast, if I think about Jennifer Aniston coming on my podcast, then my brain is going to train me to notice things that might help me move towards that future. Don't know what they are yet, but one day we'll find out. But literally, you have to train your brain. And the great news is that we all have that. We all have that capability, neuroplasticity. We can all do this literally up until the day that we die. So if you think about it like that you have to be really intentional about what you're telling your brain to notice. Because again, your brain, it's like your brain is going to notice whatever you are telling it to notice. So again, if you are focusing on the wrong things, guess what? Your brain is going to find more of those things for you to notice. If you're focusing on what is going right, your brain is going to find more of that stuff. And and then of course, the more you train your brain, the more it starts to notice the good stuff, the more automatically it happens. That's the thing. It's one of those things that, it becomes easier. Like, it can feel kind of like, oh God, this is such a hassle to have to do this initially if you're not used to it. But actually, the more you train your brain to notice the good, or to think about the things that you're grateful for, the more automatically it does that. So it becomes less hard work. And I think you and I, because we've been sort of doing these kind of things for several years now, I know for one that my brain, way more automatically than it used to, will find something to be grateful for. We'll look for something good, and we'll kind of go towards the positive rather than the negative, which it very much used to.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to, and we can train our brains.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think we often are always striving forwards towards something, towards a goal, or we're thinking that life isn't exactly how we want it right now, because you're striving, you want to buy your flat, or you want to buy the car, or you're wanting that job, or you want to go on that holiday, or there's always something. But I think also this is a reminder that life is not a dress rehearsal. This is it, what we're doing right now. And I think often we forget that let's really enjoy the journey. I mean, as cheesy as that is, but let's enjoy the now. And I think we all feel like we're just going through the motions to get to get to the thing, whatever that thing is. But actually, this is it. So let's find the joy in the present, in the now, in what we're doing, even if it's difficult and it's not, you're not living where you want to live, or you're not doing what you want to be doing. Actually, there are still moments that you can really appreciate. And maybe it's even the moment of like going, okay, I appreciate that I'm not where I am now. This is hard, but this is actually part of the process to get to where I want. But I've got to enjoy this moment, because this is life. This is it. It's not, this moment is going to be gone, and then it's on to the, so we've got to enjoy every moment.
Totally. And crucially, we've also got to remember that, this life it's a game of energy. It's a game of energy. We're energetic beings. We're 99.999, whatever it is, percent energy, and we are less than 1% matter. I really, I say this every morning in my morning routine club, because we have to remember this, because we all forget, we are less than 1% matter. And the vast majority of us, all of us, everything is energy. So we have to remember that what we're putting out is what we're bringing back, what we're attracting back into our lives. And actually, whilst we're sitting there thinking, oh, when I get to this, or when I've got the new flat, or the new car, or the new job, then I'm going to feel happy. It doesn't work like that. There goes Herbie.
Yeah. Right. Go on, there you go.
Classic. No, it's the way that it works actually is the opposite way around from the way that we think. Rather than I'm going to be happy or I'm going to feel good when I get this thing, the way that it actually works is when I start feeling good, the things that I want are going to come into my life. And it's so easy to forget that, but that is how it works. We've got to remember that our energy is so important because whatever is our dominant vibration, how we're feeling most of the time, whatever we are putting out into the universal field, we are attracting things back on that same frequency. People, situations, circumstances, things. It really is a dance with the universe, a game of energy. So I always remind people in my membership and in my morning routine club, you are an energetic being. Don't forget that. And I think we do forget that because we're so kind of wedded to these human bodies that we're living in that we forget that we're souls having a human experience, And also, we can only see such a tiny, tiny percentage of, quote, reality. It's the other thing that we forget. We get so attached to the things that we can see and hear and touch and taste and smell with our five senses. But there's so much more to reality than that. So I always, you and I have talked about this before, we've got to tune in to that higher wisdom. We've got to tune into that higher power, So, and also that's a way of, I think that's also a way of kind of feeling better in these crazy times is to remind ourselves always that there is a higher power. I'm not talking about God. I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. There is something bigger than us at play here. There really, really is. And I think that kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. Just having a look at comments here. So Helena has said, I'm being grateful the minute you open your eyes in the morning. Yes, I give thanks for three things. I won't get out of bed without saying thank you, especially doing hand taps.
Yeah, that's so great.
I love that. And there was another comment somewhere. Let me just have a little look down. I think it was from Mary, but I can't see it now, Mary.
Oh yeah, we can be kind to each other.
Oh, you can see that one.
Exactly. Yeah, that's weird because I thought when you started, I thought whoever started the live could only see I can't see the people joining. You can see the people joining, right? I can't see them because I haven't started it, but I can see the comments. So yeah, Mary says we can be kind to each other. And what's such a great point. We can be kind to each other. And we should all be prioritizing that at the moment, I think.
Definitely. All right. Well, well, there we go. I wondered if we were going to have enough to talk about that. We always managed to do it. So thanks everybody for joining. And yeah, we'll be back next week with more motivation.
Absolutely.
All right, my love.
Lots of love. I'll speak to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.